Did you know you have gold in your backyard? Well, you're looking at it. Welcome to Smell Like Dirt. Today we're going to go mining for gold in your backyard. Black gold. There are sure signs of fall. There's a chill in the air, the birds have headed south for the winter, and the leaves have started to drop. Now, many people dread the annual shedding of leaves, but gardeners see this as an opportunity. A chance to use those leaves for the good of the garden. Compost. Making compost is accelerating a natural process. The leaves have spent all summer gathering nutrients for the trees, and as winter approaches, the trees prepare to go dormant by dropping those leaves. Left untouched on the forest floor, the leaves would simply decay, and as they decompose, they would release their nutrients for the trees and other plants to use. Backyard composting is simply a way of taking that natural process and by adding some nitrogen, speeding it up. Compost is great for the garden. It adds organic materials that the plants can use and also helps retain moisture. In sandy areas, it bulks up the soil, and in heavy silt and clay like we have here, it loosens it up so the plants can send their roots deep and wide. It adds beneficial microorganisms and attracts earthworms, which every gardener loves to see as a sign of healthy soil. There are a couple of different ways to make a compost pile. You could buy something like this, and there are many different models on the market, but today we're going to focus on the open bin or hot batch method. First, you'll need to buy some welded wire fencing, or where I come from, hog wire fencing. You can get it at your local home improvement store or local hardware store. It usually comes in 50-foot rolls, so you'll get 4 bins out of each roll. Depending on how many compost piles you plan to have, you may want to split the costs and share with your neighbors. Some other supplies you'll need are 50 pounds of rabbit food, and make sure you get the pellet type and not meal, because meal just washes away. You can get it at your local feed store and some hardware stores. And just buy the cheapest you can find. You want it for the alfalfa content. That's going to be our source of nitrogen for the pile. You're also going to need measuring tape to measure your wire snips to cut the wire, gloves for safety, a pitchfork, and of course, leaves. Measure out a section of wiring 12.5 feet long and cut the wire flush, making sure you have prongs on each section to use to fasten your bin. Set it up right and use the prongs to secure the ends. Hopefully you are lucky enough to have trees on your property, so start by raking up your leaves. You'll need about 15 bags, so if you don't have enough, ask your neighbors if you can have theirs. Many people are happy to share. And if that's still not enough, ride around on trash day. Some people are actually kind enough to rake the leaves for you, bag them, and leave them at the curb. And if the bags are at the curb, they're fair game. The trash collectors and our landfills will thank you. Now that you've got your cylinder made, you need to decide where you're going to put it. And you want to keep a few things in mind. Number one, you want it easily accessible from your house. You don't want to have to walk half a mile to get to your compost pile, because you won't use it as much and you won't turn it as much. You want to make sure that it's close to a water source, and that is the garden hose that you're going to need to make sure that you get your water ratio right. You want to make sure that it's out from under any trees, because you want it to get sun and you want it to get rainwater, and more importantly, if you put it under a tree, the tree roots are going to find the compost pile. So they're going to see it as food, and they're going to come right up in it. So you don't want that either. You also really need to make sure that the compost pile is away from natural water supplies like a stream, a creek, a lake. If you have a well on your property, you want to make sure they're at least 30 feet from all of those watering places, because you're going to have some nitrogen runoff, so we want to make sure that that doesn't get into our water system. Now that we've got our compost pile where we want it, it's time to start making it. And the easiest way to think of this is like you're making a cake or some other recipe. You need to add ingredients, mix them up really well, add some more ingredients, mix it up really well. Each layer should be about a foot thick. This is easily measured using the sections of wire. Each tier is 4 inches, so you want to add enough leaves to go up about 3 sections. Once you have that done, add a quarter of your rabbit food. If you have 2 25-pound bags, use half of the first bag. Then, using your pitchfork, mix it up really well and start adding water. It's important to have a water content of 50%, about the consistency of a wrung out sponge. Be careful not to get it too soggy or the air won't be able to circulate through the pile. Not enough water and it won't heat up properly and start to decompose. So like Goldilocks' porridge, it has to be just right. Once you are sure you have it mixed well and the right amount of water, start the next layer. Remember, 1 foot thick and then 1/4 of the rabbit food. Mix it really well and add water. On your second layer, add a shovelful or 2 of dirt. Doesn't have to be special dirt, just some right out of your garden. There are naturally occurring microorganisms, fungus, beneficial bacteria, etc. in the soil that are useful to have in your pile to help start the decomposition process. Proceed with the third and fourth layers, remembering to mix well and adding the right amount of water. There are some things you shouldn't add to the compost pile. First, grass clippings. They have a tendency to become matted down, and boy can they stink. And also, because many of us use chemicals such as fertilizers or weed killers on the lawn, it really shouldn't go into your compost pile. Instead, use a mulching lawnmower and leave those grass clippings on the lawn. Also, don't use animal products such as meat, fat, or bones. Don't use charcoal ashes, pet droppings, invasive plants, poisonous or thorny plants, disease or infested plants. But you can use debris from your garden, vegetable and fruit peels, coffee grounds and coffee filters, tea bags, wood ash, stale bread, paper towels and napkins, and eggshells. There's a complete list of do's and don'ts on smelllikedirt.com. After all 4 layers are done, we're going to put a final layer of leaves as a cap on the pile. You won't add any rabbit food to this final layer. The cap will help eliminate any odors and prevent attracting any undesirable critters. Done right, your pile will not smell or attract animals. When adding kitchen scraps, use a stick to make a hole in the pile. Go as deep as you can. Once you have the hole made, pour the scraps from the kitchen into the pile and cover the hole back up. Again, this is to avoid odors and unwanted pests. Leave the stick to mark the spot where you added the scraps, and the next time you need to add some, put them in a different location. So here we have our completed compost pile, and I think it's already starting to cook. Next time we're going to talk about the proper way to turn your pile and some uses for compost in your garden. So I hope you'll take this opportunity to go out and start your compost pile. If you have any questions, please contact us at smelllikedirt.com. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Carol Bowie Jackson, and here's hoping you smell like dirt.